down outside. I just figured I'd do a very quick update where I tell you, because it's been a while since I've like talked to you about anything that I'm doing. I'm working on Hotel Story. I think I'm 82,000 words in. I've done a lot of writing this month. I am around the climax area, I think. I'm starting to envision the end of the story for the first time ever, which is really cool. I'm basically where I started at the beginning of the month, but I went back and added a new plot line and several new scenes. I've also went through and found a few threads that I never tied up, threads that I just kind of dropped as the story has progressed. Um, and so I've made note of those. And yeah, I can't believe I'm still on the first draft of this story. This story is as old as me and my husband's relationship. I've won Camp NaNoWriMo. I put in 20,000 words as a goal, so I've written at least that much. If you hear that jingling, Helen's scratching. I've been looking at this story for over a month now. I started at the end of June. It's now the beginning of August. But in the last couple of days, I kind of realized that I was at a point in the story where like I'm in the sort of in the beginnings of the climax, I guess. I don't know if it's actually the climax or if it's like an event before the climax, because again, I'm making the story up as I go. And we're definitely at a very important scene that, if not part of the climax, it's definitely the climax for one of the plots. I just don't know if it's the climax for like one of the other major plots or not. Like that might happen later. So where I am is I was writing from my one character's perspective, and I realized I had no idea how I wanted his scene to go. Like I kind of have an idea of what I want it to go, but there's questions that I have to answer in his scene or before I get to his scene, even just to answer from my own knowledge, and I just do not have those answers. I cannot move forward with writing some of these scenes until I know what's going on. And it's not really the kind of thing that I can make up in the scene as I go. It's like these are bigger, overarching questions that need answers. I don't want to spoil stuff. I guess I could say this one thing because it happens early on, but like a character dies in the story, and it's like, well, what's the circumstances surrounding their death? Was it an accident? Was it a murder? Was it natural? You know? And if it was a murder, like who, what, when, where, why, how kind of deal. I haven't figured out how I want it to play ultimately into the story. And like I should know that at this point in the story. So I decided the last couple of days to make a list. I called it frequently pondered questions. I've been tamping down some of these questions throughout my writing of the story, but at this point I just need these answers now. So I figured, because I sort of hit a wall in the story, and also because I've been working on the story for over a month, and that's like longer than I usually work on a story in one go. Like normally I kind of just lose motivation after a few weeks, which is I've noticed is normal for me. So I just kind of lean into it at this point. Like if I need a break from a story, I just take a break. It's not a big deal. No need to get creatively depressed, which I often have experienced in my writing life. Like I was talking about that with my therapist. Like now I don't need to feel guilty about taking breaks from my story or taking breaks in general. Like I can just lean into it. Like, all right, now I'm going to just sit on the couch, watch Father Brown, and play this burger cooking game on my phone and just enjoy that and not feel guilty about it. That's literally what I was doing yesterday. I'm leaning into this break, taking a step back from forcing myself to write, because I'm so close to the end of the book. I was like, I should just finish it. I bet I could finish it this month. This month being July, which is now over. I was trying to finish it for Camp NaNoWriMo, but I kept going back to like add new scenes that needed to be there, which is great. But it meant that I wasn't actually moving forward in the story. But now I'm taking a step back from pushing myself to write, and I'm instead just taking some time to work on answering these big overarching questions. I feel like there's a lot of questions that I haven't written in here yet. I just need to review like all of my notes and pull all the questions that I don't know. Hello! I just came from a cafe, and I was there for 3 hours exactly, because that is as long as my parking thing would allow me to sit here. And last time I was here, I paid for 2 hours and stayed for 3 and got a parking ticket. So wasn't gonna mess with that today. I just thought that it would be cool to do a little vlog about me finishing another book this year. Fingers crossed. I'm working on Hotel Story still, and today was my first time writing it in about a week. And I just want to finish this. I told myself I wanted to finish it by the end of September, and while that seemed like it would be pretty straightforward to do when it was the middle of August, and I had set this goal, it is now, like I said, a week into September, and we're on a time crunch now, okay? So I was at the cafe, like I said. It's kind of interesting, like with Storm Cloud, every time I came back to the story, I like was reconceptualizing and would have to rewrite the entire story because it changed so much. But this time, every time I come back to it, I just think of more things to add to it. It just makes the draft better. I was thinking about pitch wars today, and I was like, oh, maybe I can scramble something together with this draft to be able to submit it to pitch wars. But then I found out that pitch wars is no longer a thing as of like last year. So that's out. So something I'll need to do in the future is look into more writing mentorship programs, because I think those would be fun to apply for, if only to help me get my draft into shape. I don't know if you can hear me or even see what's going on outside, but I literally just started driving and this is the weather. So I pulled over to wait it out. I'm hoping that it'll pass because it's a 30-minute drive home. I should have just gone to the cafe that was 5 minutes away. Anyway, I'm just gonna try to absorb the I don't know, riding juices that are literally like storming this area, and turn lemons into lemonade, you know? This is crazy. Like I couldn't even see, so I had to pull over. But it could be an hour before the worst of this passes. Hello. Hope you can hear me. I just wanted to show you that I'm working on my index cards. I realized that I have 12 colors of index cards. I could actually divide up the index cards based on which character the scene is told from, like whose POV the scene is told from. I've always wanted to divide up my index cards by color, but I've never really had a good way of doing it that made sense. But I feel like there's obviously some characters who have more scenes than others, but the majority of scenes are split between like a handful of characters, like 5 characters or something like that. And then there's other scenes, there's like characters who you hear from once, maybe twice. And so I might group a couple of characters together. But it would just be great that like when I have my stack of index cards, I can look through and be like, oh, all of the red scenes are for my main character. Okay, I'm back. And I'm going to run out of red index cards, and I'm still only in like chapter 5. I've assigned red index cards to my main character, and especially in the beginning, she has a lot of scenes compared to the other characters. I think as we progress, it sort of balances out a bit more, but I'm already going to run out of red index cards. Also, it's starting to rain and thunder outside. It's been so hot the last week. And before that, it was actually dipping into fall weather where it was actually very chilly at night. But then all of a sudden we had like a little heat wave. But I'm gonna get back to this index cards. You can see it looks worse than it is. I forgot to do this when I first got in my car, and now I'm heading home, but it started raining. A lot of rainy days upcoming, which is funny because we're about to go to Virginia, so we're gonna miss it. But anyway, I just wanted to sum up the cafe. Sorry the camera angle's quite low. I'm literally at a red light right now. I'm not holding it. Hands are free. It's in my phone now. Don't you worry, okay? What am I saying? So at the cafe today, working on Hotel Story, I did something that I don't think I've done yet for this story, and that is I planned ahead. Okay, if you know that this story has been discovery, right? But obviously, like, I'm getting to the end, like I have to start planning some stuff just so I can like make things make sense and make sure that I'm writing is something that I don't then have to go back and delete. And so that's what I did today. I decided that I needed to figure out what the climax of the story was going to be, and then work backwards to where I am now in the story. So that way I can figure out. I figured out that there's 4 main plots, and I figured out kind of what's the climax of each of the plots. I do need to figure out like how to make some of these happen. I'm still kind of lost on like whether I feel like the scene that I'm currently writing and have been writing for a very long time feels like it should be the climax for the plot that it's attached to, but it doesn't. It completely excludes itself from the climaxes of the other plots. And so I'm not really sure how to bring those other climaxes into this scene, and I don't think they can be really. So I think I might just have this plot have its climax, and then I can write the other plot's climaxes, and then in a revision or something, or maybe as I go, I'll figure out a way to like blend them all together a bit better. Good morning. Sorry, it's very dark, but it's September 11th, and it's like, gosh, it's not yet 6 in the morning, but we're about to go take the train down to Virginia, but we have to get an early start. But I had a few minutes before I go eat breakfast to read because I had like 40 pages off of this book last night, and I did not want to bring this giant, nearly 700 page book down to Virginia with me. So you might recognize this book from when I bought it in Ireland and read it throughout the rest of that trip. And then I absolutely fell in love with this book. Having finished it, I am still in love with this book. It just became a weird thing where it was like, I love the book so much that like 400 something pages in, I couldn't push myself to read any more of it because I was afraid of finishing it and not having it anymore. I didn't want it to end, and I was afraid that bad things would happen to the main characters, and I didn't want to see them go through that. Although I say that, and literally the entire book from beginning to end is bad things happening to the main characters. But I just wanted to document that and this vlog about Hotel Story, just to show that I did finally finish reading the book. Greetings, it's September 12th, it's Monday, and I have my index cards, and I'm going to try something. I have my mom's countertop here, and I'm going to take all my index cards, which, if you might recall, I sorted the plots by color. So each color is a different character's plot line. So I'm just going to lay them out and see if I can get, because this is a very long counter, so maybe I can get a visual of like each individual character's plot, where it falls in line with the overall plot. And starts there, then it continues here and down here. So this is where I'm at in the story right now. These few scenes here are all of these scenes here, pink, green, orange, purple, 4 characters who are in the same scene, but it's a long scene, like it crosses a few chapters and I'm still writing it. So that's the like sort of climax of that, or build up to the climax for that plot. And the thing about these 4 characters is that they each have their own plot, kind of. Some bigger than others, but they all combine. They all come together in this scene, I guess I should say, because this scene, what they're exploring right now, will answer questions for each of them at different points and in different ways. So, however, as you can see, I have more than just 4 colors here. So this is the same character as the red index cards I just ran out. I have the yellow character and I have the dark blue character, and I have to figure out how to fit their plots into the scene that's happening at the end there. Which is kind of unfortunate because the scene that's happening at the end is happening in the middle of the night. But the other characters, the way that I am starting to envision their plots happening, it doesn't happen in the middle of the night. Because for the most part, people are sleeping in the middle of the night. these characters are awake, but there's a specific reason why they're awake, whereas these other characters they don't have any reason to be up in the middle of the night. Because I always thought the climax is when all the different plot threads come together in like one scene or series of scenes, but like everything's kind of feeding into one another. But the way the climax is looking for this book is that the climaxes of the different plots will all happen separately, and that's what I'm figuring out. Like, is that okay? It's just hard because there's a bunch of different characters who all have different things going on, and some of them tie into each other and some of them don't. And what's more is that, like the yellow character, some things have to happen in order for her plot to have its climax, and that climax will affect someone else's plot's climax. I don't know. I have to make sense of this in my brain. I don't know how I'm going to make sense of it to you if I can't even make sense of it to myself. But just know that I'm confused. So it's a couple hours later. I just thought I'd show you my finished timeline. So this, you know, each color is a different character or a group of characters. And then we just kind of go, each of these blocks, like you see this dark line here, that's one day. So all these events happen in one day in this order. And then, yeah, each of these is a different day. And that's where I'm at right now. Greetings, it's Thursday, September 14th, and I just spent the last, 2 hours or so trying to write this scene. I finally wrapped up this series of scenes that I've been working on for the better part of a year, just kind of on and off, whenever I came to work on this story. But the whole scene where I'm like, oh, it's just before the climax, I wrapped it up. And I think it was yesterday that I was doing some plotting and I figured out that this scene is definitely not the climax. It's sort of a false climax where you think that the characters are about to find what they've been looking for, but then they kind of hit a wall, and that's what I've just finished writing. And so I also kind of figured out how they come back to it later, like, oh, maybe we've been looking at this all wrong, that kind of whole thing, and that'll happen a bit later. But first I need to turn my attention back to some of the other characters' plot lines, the ones who aren't involved in this little treasure hunt, so to speak. And yeah, so that's going to be the next thing that I sit down to write. But let me tell you, when you don't write for a few days, it really comes back to just like pulling teeth. Like, it was really trying to write this today. But my word count is 86,326 or something like that. I am envisioning it'll be over 90,000 words. I don't know how far over 90,000, but there's still quite a few things that need to happen. So yeah, but I'm going to take a break from writing now for the rest of the day. And I guess we're going to cook some dinner soon, so we'll have to figure out what that is. But until then, I'm going to play a game on my phone and watch Taskmaster, because that's been my show as of late. I just went through, did some index cards, also did my plot event. So I took a lot of the scenes that I know still have to be written and I put them in order of like what's the next chapter, and then the chapter after that, and then the climax chapter, and then the epilogue / resolution. So I just actually figured out what's happening for the rest of the story, and well, I feel very proud, but also kind of weird that like I can actually clearly see the ending now, like it's coming to an end. Also, I've got a giant mug of tea here. I can't believe we're here. Okay. Good morning, it's Saturday morning, and we have had a great day today. We got up, we went for a 3.5 mile walk with the puppy, my mom and my husband and me, and then we went to the farmer's market, and that was really cool because we got some apple butter and a crap ton of vegetables. I'm planning to make a copycat Panera butternut squash soup. I featured it in a vlog, one of my first vlogs. in like 2017 or 2018. So I'm making that soup again because my mom requested it. And later in the week, I might make some zucchini bread. They might do something with the peppers and the eggplant and stuff. Yeah, but anyway, I'm gonna sit here, eat my apple butter, and in about 45 minutes, we're leaving to go to the movie theater to see A Haunting in Venice, the three of us, I'm really excited for this movie. Oh, and I'm wearing my Disney dress, which I got in Japan at a vintage store on Harajuku, Takashita Street in Harajuku neighborhood. I love it because it makes me feel like this is a dress that, oh my gosh, I just undone. Let's keep it PG here, folks. I think that's part of my aesthetic is dressing like I'm either in kindergarten or I'm a kindergarten art teacher. So I'm gonna try to do a little bit of writing in that time. And yeah, and one other thing I wanted to say. So I mentioned before, I think, how Pitch Wars, I found out recently that Pitch Wars is not a thing anymore. And I no longer have that to kind of look forward to try to get my draft into shape, Hotel Story. But just last night, I'm going to a writing conference this fall, and just last night I finally booked the specific workshops and talks that I'm going to, as well as doing an agent one-on-one. So I have 2 agents that I'm going to get to speak with just for 10 minutes. And I have to, in order to prepare for that, have to send them like an agent package, which is just like query letter, synopsis, and the first 5,000 words of my manuscript. And I guess in that 10 minutes, then when I get to speak to them, they're going to give me some kind of feedback. So that'll be really cool. So that is due on September 28th is when I have to submit that by. And so I have to try to finish my I'm not even finished with Hotel Story yet, but that's the story that I want to submit for this. So I have to try to finish writing my Hotel Story and write a query letter and write a synopsis. Now, I feel prepared to do this, even though it gives me less than 2 weeks to do all of that, because I'm probably like 90 something percent done with this draft. I'm literally about to write, like, I have 3 chapters left I think I have to write. So 2 chapters and then an epilogue. And there's going to be some length to these chapters, I think. But I think I can still do it. And then I have a summary that I wrote for this story, like way back in the beginning when I first got the idea. I just whipped out a summary. And a summary has never come that easily to me before, but this one really did. And while the story has changed a bit since I wrote that summary, I'll have to tweak some details to make the summary more accurate, but it's still pretty on point, I think. And I also think it's well written. Like, it reads like you would expect a summary to read in terms of all the cadences that it hits and what it says about the story and the characters and stuff. So the query letter, the manuscript, I'm good with. Even though John pointed out that I technically only have to submit the first 5,000 words, so I don't necessarily have to finish the draft for this, but I want to because for the synopsis, a synopsis is basically an essay of, it's like essay format, just paragraphs of everything that happens in your book, start to finish, spoilers and all. And you don't write every single detail that happens in your book because you really only have like a page to do it. So you kind of keep to the main highlights of the book. So I have a working scene list that I wrote a few weeks ago. And so that's basically just a bullet list of all the scenes that happen. So I can just take that list and I can put it in paragraph form. So remove all the numbering on it. And then remove some things, just kind of comb through it and pare it down so that it's about a page and in paragraph form. So I think I can do those 3 things in the next 2 weeks. Today's the 16th of September, I think, so I have actually less than that, so I have 12 days. I think I can do it, but I'm going to start with eating this apple butter and we're trying to write some of this next scene. Yeah, okay, that's all I have to say.